So this is going to be a little bit looking ahead, but whenever we do these tests on your parameters, sometimes your tests are not going to come out. So we need to talk about test results, and that if things fail, then we need to discuss why that's not necessarily a bad thing, and think about criteria, procedures, and what this implies for your prototype and design, and what do you do if your test fails. So when you complete a test, did you obtain the results you expected? So what we need to look at is it repeatable and reliable? So if you did that again and again and again, are you going to get exactly the same results? Are your measurements accurate, and are you biased? Your bias will alter your results, okay? If you expect it to come out a certain way, it's very easy for you to pay attention and only record the things that you like. So try to be unbiased, but even if you try, you're still going to be biased. So here's the thing. If it's not accurate, if it's not reliable, or if it is biased, you can't use it to verify your design. So it's important when you're doing your test data collection and analysis. So as you go through your build process, you should be doing benchmarks along the way, and keep in mind that if your prototype doesn't meet the specifications, it's not solving the problem. So when tests fail, you need to make sure you document exactly what happened. Why did it fail the test? Identify the point of failure. This is all dependent upon taking accurate notes and lots of observations. And if you did it again, would it fail in exactly the same way? So it takes a lot of analysis to understand a test failure. Whenever you have a test that fails, you need to understand why. In industry, we did a thing called FMEA, and it was developed by Ford. And one of the things we had to do was the 5 whys. Why did this fail? And we had to answer the question why 5 times, and that would get you to the root of the failure. So you need to think about your test criteria, your testing procedure, or actually your prototype and design. What was the cause of the failure? So when you're looking at testing criteria, you want to really carefully consider your design specifications. Did the test really test those specifications? Does that benchmark provide an adequate measure for successful performance? So is it really a valid test? When you're considering your testing procedure, make sure that it appropriately assesses your prototype, that the procedures were carried out properly, that the test equipment was sufficient to measure your tests. For instance, you wouldn't use a 1-foot ruler to measure a 100-foot distance. And you wouldn't use a 1-foot ruler to try to measure the width of a human hair. So you've got to use the right test equipment. Did you correctly gather the data and record the data? This is something I've observed in science classes. If we do a measurement 6 times, usually the first one is terrible. So I would suggest practice your data collection a few times before you start recording your data for your test, just to make sure you understand the procedure, because a lot of times that first data point or 2 are skewed because you don't know what you're doing. Did something you did during the test affect the results? And are you biased in your results? So if you're looking at the data, are you ignoring things that are glaring because they disagree with your hypothesis? When we look at the prototype and design, does our prototype meet our specifications and parameters? And then really, when we're talking about testing and failure of testing, we want to understand, is it the material? Was it the assembly? Was it the construction? What was the root cause? And again, that's where asking that same question, why, over and over and over, that's going to lead you to the root of the failure. So when you get to the end of your test and it's failed, you have to ask yourself, do I need to redo this or redirect it? Do we need to do it a different way?